Welcome to MyShliach Story Hour Chassidim series.
All right, let's go for another story of Reb Shmuel Munkes. So one time, Reb Shmuel Munkes' wife, Mrs. Munkes, asked Reb Shmuel Munkes, Reb Shmuel, can you please go to the market and buy some milk? The kinderlach would like milk for cereal and milk tomorrow, if you don't mind. Sure. Now remember, in those days, you couldn't go to the store and just pick a bottle of milk off the fridge in the store and keep it in your refrigerator at home. You would have to go to the farm or the market, and that morning, the farmer had fresh milk from the cow, and they'd bring it to the marketplace, and he would have this big vat or barrel, or if you went straight to the farm, you would come with your own little bucket, and they'd milk the cow, and then you'll take the fresh milk home. So, Shmuel Munkes, being a good husband, takes the empty bucket and heads out towards the marketplace to buy milk for his family. And on his way, Shmuel Munkes does what any good chassid does when they go in the street. He was thinking words of Torah. The Rebbe tells us in Ayem Yem many times that when someone is standing on line in a store or riding the subway or on a train, or you're walking in the street, to be metaher the aver, to make the ear that you are purified. It doesn't mean to come with an ear purifier and start spraying the ear, chas v'shalom. It means to purify the ear with words of Torah, Shnayas Balpeh, Tanya Balpeh. And Reb Shmuel Munkes was thinking Chassidus, maybe he was saying Chassidus also. And he had a big shaila, a big question. He was thinking while he was walking on his way to the marketplace. He was thinking, I can't understand. There's this maimer that I learned, and this it doesn't go. The Alter Rebbe said a maimer, and there's one nikud at one point of the maimer. I just can't seem to understand it. And after thinking about it for a few minutes, walking on the road, he realized the only way for me to understand this, I should have to go back to the Rebbe, to the Alter Rebbe, and ask the Alter Rebbe what to do, what's the answer, and the Rebbe could answer me. And so without thinking, Reb Shmuel Munkes, bucket in hand, continues on the road, right past the marketplace, right past the farm, on the way to, you guessed it, Liyazna. He arrived in Liyazna, where the Alter Rebbe lived, and when Reb Shmuel Munkes came to Liyazna, it was like coming to Gan Eden. He was like living in another planet. He loved it within the Damas of the Rebbe. And over there he sat and he learned Chassidus like a person who was thirsty for many months and finally found water. Until finally the question that he had on the Maimer was answered. And as soon as he got his answer, okay, now I can go back home. On his way home, Reb Shmuel Munkes looks down at his hand. He's like, "Oi, I'm carrying an empty bucket. I was supposed to get milk for my kinderlach. Oi. So, Reb Shmuel Munkes takes the bucket and he runs home as fast as he can. But before he does, he stops off at the farm and he fills up the bucket of milk, fresh milk, all the way to the top. And he remembers, I left home a couple of days ago to go get milk and I didn't come back yet. My wife is going to be so upset if I don't come right away." And he grabs the bucket and he's running very, very fast until he gets to his house. And he takes out his keys and he opens the door and he rushes through the door, bucket in hand, full of milk, when all of a sudden, bloop, Shmuel Munkes trips over the shvel, over the doorpost, the threshold of the door, that little thing you walk in through the door. And the milk bucket slips out of his hand and crashes to the floor. And all of a sudden, somebody starts playing, "Who Spilt the Milk on the Kitchen Floor?" No, it was not me. No, I'm kidding. Kinderlach, that's a joke. The milk was spilt all over the floor. I don't know if it was the kitchen floor, was the dining room floor, but the milk was spilt. And Reb Shmuel Munkes' wife looked at him, and Shmuel Munkes realized, what's he going to say? So in true Reb Shmuel Munkes fashion, his true manner, he decided to make a joke out of the situation instead of getting upset. Oy vey, look, I rushed and now I'm all soaking wet of milk. He says, look, that's what happens when you rush. Haste makes waste. I was rushing too fast to get the milk, and now it spilled all over the floor. His joke was that, look, it only took me 3, 4, 5 days to get the milk since you last told me. I rushed so fast, and that's why the milk spilled. That was his joke. Really, it wasn't supposed to take so long. But Kinderlach, there's a few things we can learn from this interesting story about Reb Shmuel Munkes spilling the milk and making a joke out of it, that he was rushing too fast. You know, when I was a little boy, I heard a story one time about Napoleon. Who was Napoleon? Napoleon was a big leader in France, was set out to conquer the world. As a matter of fact, we know Napoleon from the Niggun Napoleon's March, the Alter Rebbe, that we sing every year on Yom Kippur, at the end of Yom Kippur by Ne'ilah. Napoleon, they say, didn't sleep a lot at night. I was one time told he slept about 4 hours a night. And one of his officers asked him and said, Napoleon, why do you want? You're Napoleon. You're such a powerful man. Why didn't you sleep later? And he says, because when I sleep, I don't feel good that I'm Napoleon. I don't realize that I am who I am. I don't realize how powerful I am when I'm sleeping. I like to be me. It feels good to be me. So I like to be Napoleon. So when I'm up, I'm able to be conscious of that. And one thing we can learn from that is to always be conscious of the fact that we're Chassidim and that we're Yidden, to be proud of it. You know, when we're sleeping, we're takas shlaf tachas adechet. But every waking moment, to be aware of that. But there's another point I wanted to share. One time, Napoleon had one of his officers tying his shoes. The soldier was on the floor, and he was tying the shoes for Napoleon. And the soldier knew that Napoleon's time was precious. And so he was trying to rush tying the shoes very, very fast. But because he was rushing it, he wasn't focusing properly, and it didn't tie properly, and it just kept on opening. So Napoleon looked down at the soldier and said, please, slow down. I am in a rush. Slow down, I'm in a rush. You should hurry up if he's in a rush. Haste makes waste, Kinderlach. When you try to do things too fast, and oftentimes you end up cutting corners and it doesn't go good. Napoleon's telling the soldier, slow down, take your time, tie my shoes like a mensch, because I'm in a rush. I don't have time for it to keep undoing and opening up. I have to keep tying it because he didn't do it properly. Where do we learn from these stories in Aveda for our day-to-day life? Sometimes we go to shul and we come to shul to daven, but instead we overhear a geschmack conversation going on, and somebody's making a business deal, and some person is talking about the latest score that the team had, or some geschmack, a juicy piece of news, or something interesting that their counselor told them about in camp. And although we came to shul with the right intentions to daven, are we really focusing on the siddur and davening 100%? I mean, we're saying the words, but where's our head? Where's our kavanah? You know? And or, better yet, a person might sit and listen to the conversation during davening, and then when it comes to davening, he knows he has to be home at a certain time, so he opens the siddur and he rushes through the whole davening. You said the words, but did you daven? Das heißt gedaven. Davening, take your time, having a private conversation with the Eivishter, just you and Hashem, one-on-one. Take your time and daven like a mensch. Haste makes waste. When you're rushed, when you're pressured, it doesn't end well. When you have to be on time to school, when you know, I need to take my time to get to school. I wake up earlier so I don't have to rush. Because if I have to rush, then I might forget my homework, and I might forget my lunch, and I might end up being late because I'm in a rush. But if we time ourselves properly, and we know that we don't have to rush, we don't have to make haste, that way we don't have to make waste. Because a chassid, besides, has to be a masuder. Chassid has to be organized. We have to know at site is at site. We have to be somewhere. We're there on time. When we said we're going to do something, we do it right away. Instead of pushing things off for the last minute and end up rushing. That was one nekuda. One simple story about spilling a bucket of milk can really have hours and hours of lessons that we can learn from the Chosid Reb Shmuel Munkes. But one thing we kept talking about a lot, Kindalach, is the fact that Reb Shmuel Munkes lived with MS. His whole life was MS. He wasn't putting on a show. When he said it, that was a funny thing. He didn't mean it as a joke. He meant it. It was MS. He really meant it. So much so, there's the famous story of Reb Shmuel Munkes. Everybody thinks about Reb Shmuel Munkes and they hear this story. It goes like this. One time, the Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe were coming back from a Farbrengen. They were leaving the Alter Rebbe shul, and they were passing by the street where the Alter Rebbe lives, the Alter Rebbe's house, and they see there's like something hanging upside down on the gate of the Alter Rebbe's house. And like, what's going on? Is there something stuck there? And the Chassidim come closer, and lo and behold, there's a Chassid hanging from the gate of the Alter Rebbe's chutzner, of the Alter Rebbe's yard, upside down. Now, I want you boys and girls to take a wild guess. Who do you think this Chassid hanging upside down from the gate of the Alter Rebbe's house is? That's right. How did you figure it out? It was the Chosid Reb Shmuel Munkes. And the Chassidim were just as bewildered as you are trying to figure out. I mean, I heard Reb Shmuel Munkes does funny things. You know, he dances around with a pot of flesh on his head and throws it out, only to later find out to tell us that it was treif. And I know that Reb Shmuel Munkes one time rushed with a bucket of milk 3 days late and said that he ran too fast. I mean, I know Reb Shmuel Munkes said a bracha shalei asani goy when his house burned down. But what does that have to do with Reb Shmuel Munkes hanging upside down on a gate by the Alter Rebbe's house? Reb Shmuel, did you get stuck up there perhaps? Do you need a chair? Do you need a ladder? Can I help you get down? Yeah, how did you get up there? This is not the monkey bars. And you're a big chassid. You don't climb on monkey bars anyways. Well, what are you doing up there? No, don't worry. I don't need a chair. I don't need a ladder. Monkey bars. Was sagst denn Chainik? I'm here on purpose. Why are you here on purpose?
Yeah, why are you here on purpose? How'd you get up there?
Says Reb Shmuel, let me explain to you. My tired of friends, have you ever been to the marketplace? Yeah, I work in the marketplace. Very good. So let me ask you a question, Reb Tadris. If you're walking in the marketplace and you wanted to know where you can buy shoes, what would you look for? There's a lot of stores. What would you look for? Oh, I would look for the store that has shoes hanging outside of it, you know, or maybe shoes on the sign, or like shoes, different pairs of shoes hanging in the window or outside the store. I would know that's a shoe store. Very good. And you, Reb Gedalia, if I wanted to know where I could buy a suit in the marketplace, what would I look for?
You would probably look for the house or the store that had a suit hanging outside, or pants, or a jacket, or maybe also a pair of socks, but I'm not so sure. But maybe a jacket or a capote might also be something they might put on display on the outside. Oh, very good. And you, Reb Chaim? Yes. What can I do for you, Reb Shmuel? If I was looking to buy the most delicious watermelon, where would I look? Well, that if you're looking for a watermelon, you'd probably like the watermelon, the kind that the Alter Rebbe had when he was sent the message of Shema Yisrael from the MyShliach Kislev. That probably would come from the store that has apples and oranges and tomatoes outside in the fruit stand, because that's how you know that it would be a fruit store. They probably also sell a watermelon in there. Very good. So what do you see, Taidich Chassidim? If I want to know what store sells shoes, if I want to know if there's shoes inside, I see the shoes hanging outside. And if I want to know where they make clothing, I look for a suit. And if I want to know where I can buy vegetables, I look for fruits or vegetables outside. Frag ich bei dir. Let me ask you. This is the house of the Alter Rebbe. What does the Alter Rebbe do? The Alter Rebbe is a Rebbe. What does the Alter Rebbe do? What do you mean the Alter Rebbe? He's a Rebbe. He teaches Chassidus. You're right, he teaches Chassidus. And someone that learns Chassidus and goes in the ways of the Rebbe, what's he called? Well, that we call a Chassid, obviously. So a Rebbe makes Chassidim. You're right. There's Chassidim are by the Rebbe.
So if Chassidim are by the Rebbe, it only makes sense that if you pass by the house of the Rebbe, there should be a Chassid hanging outside to show, you want to know to become a Chassid? This is where you become a Chassid. You go to the Rebbe, you learn by the Rebbe, and you learn from the Rebbe how to daven, and you farbring by the Rebbe, and then you go,
Reb Shmuel, that's actually a very good idea. I didn't think of that, but I now that you prove your point, let me give you my hand. Climb down, maybe, because I don't want you to chas v'shalom slip and clap the cup. That wouldn't be such a good idea.
okay. And so, Reb Shmuel Munkes, at some point, came off the gate of the house of the Alter Rebbe. But a lot of times when we think the story of Shmuel Munkes, of the Chassid that hung on the gate, was he making a joke? Was he trying to climb on monkey bars? Absolutely not. Shmuel Munkes, MS, truth. And he meant it. A Chassid represents the Rebbe. You look at a Chassid, you see the Rebbe. And I think we spoke about this earlier. One of the unique things we have as Lubavitcher Chassidim, although there's many other types of Chassidim, there's one thing that every Lubavitcher Chassid has. It's a schus and an achrayis. And that is, someone looks at us, whether we like it or not, they look at us as representing the Rebbe. When somebody sees a Lubavitcher do something, they didn't see, I saw a Jew do something. I saw a Chassid do something. I saw a Lubavitcher do something. And when a Lubavitcher does something, it's a reflection on the Rebbe. We are the Rebbe's ambassadors to the world, especially if you're on Lachluchis. It's a great schus, but it's also a great achrayis, a great responsibility. We want to be that chassid that can be hanging outside the Rebbe's house, like Reb Shmuel Munkes, to say, this is what the Rebbe produces. Chassidim that learn and daven and have Avos Yisrael and go out of their way to help another Yid and are ibigi geben to the Rebbe's heroes. That's a chassid. We're a display sign. We are a billboard for the Rebbe. We are a reflection for Lubavitch International. That's us. It's a huge achrayis. There's no such a thing. You can make a chil Hashem, chas v'shalom, and sometimes you can make a chil Lubavitch. If I did something, it reflects on the whole Lubavitch, chas v'shalom. If that's how it is on the negative side, if someone does something not good, it's not just something that they did. It's for the whole Lubavitch. It's for the Rebbe. Halachas kama v'kama. How much more so when we act the way we're supposed to act? True Chassidim, emes Chassidim. We do what the Rebbe wants. How much more so? Meruba midat tova. How much greater of an effect our positive influence on our friends, our neighbors, our balabatim, the world has much a greater influence and impact. And you can think to yourself, what do I know? I'm not bar mitzvah yet. I'm not bas mitzvah yet. I'm 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. Who really cares? No. Adrave. You're that sign. You're the chassid hanging outside the Rebbe's house. You're the Shmuel Munkes. You're the poster boy. You're the poster child for Lubavitch. The world's looking at you and says, what does the Rebbe want? What does the Rebbe want? What do we need to do to bring Mashiach? I don't know. Let's go ask a Lubavitcher. I see the Lubavitcher boy does this. I know that's going to bring Mashiach. See a Lubavitcher girl acts like this. That's what's going to bring Mashiach. It's a big responsibility. Don't think you're too young for it. Be that chassid. Hang outside the Rebbe's house. Not literally. Figuratively.